Hello, 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 hello. Welcome to Progress Kentucky's Kernels of Truth. I'm Nate Orshan, your host for the night. I'm going to be joined by a special co host and a special guest. Uh, I have a script to read from, and I've totally forgotten where it is. Okay, let's start from the top. We're going to be touching on a bit of Kentucky political news from Frankfort, and then we are excited, we really are, because he's a cool guy, to be joined by Whit Whitaker, the president of the Lexington-Fayette branch of the NAACP. And then we're going to wrap up with a really urgent call to action. But first, are you, yes, you, ready to help turn Kentucky purple? Well, we are glad you're here, and we hope you agree with us that Kentucky deserves better than Mitch McConnell, Jamie Comer, I can't even say these names, Big Banks, Andy Barr, the GOP's supermajorities in the General Assembly, which block our governor time and time again from moving Kentucky forward. Despite the challenges facing Kentucky, we've had some highlights. We rejected Amendment 2 to keep abortion protections in our state constitution, and we reelected Governor Andy. So we can get things done in the state, but it's still clear there's lots of work to do in our state to win better electoral outcomes for our Commonwealth. Unless you want your tax dollars siphoned away from public schools and sent to unaccountable religious schools, or maybe just kicked back to rich folks. No, the answer is no. Between now and November 5th, which I think is 13 short days from now, we're going to be working for better electoral outcomes in Kentucky. We hope you'll support Progress Kentucky in our campaign for a more compassionate Commonwealth. Make a contribution right now via our secure online website. Act Blue to help turn Kentucky purple. $5, $50, $500. It could happen. You never know. Manifesting some good stuff here. It all adds up. And we thank you very, very much for your support. So, where'd we go? There we go. It's time to check in with our co-host to let us know who you are, where you are, and what you are protesting today. And you, right there, listening or watching online, we mean you too. Let's hear what you're protesting today. Please feel free to put in the chat while we're talking there's that corgi, what your protest sign is while we're sharing ours. So I'll go first. My name's Nate Orshan. This is my cat Zola, coming live and direct from Frankfort, Kentucky. And my protest time says, hey, ho, ho. Amendments 2 and 1, but especially 2, have got to go. It's a very big sign. And that's it for me. Let's check into our co-host, Nema Brewer.
Hey, Nate, how are you today?
Good. How are you?
Well, you heard the corgi barking, so it's going to be one of those shows, I think, for us. But my protest sign says, "Is the election over yet? Is the election over yet?" Things are getting squirrely, Nate. I don't know if you've been noticing. Things are getting real squirrely, especially here in Fayette County and across the Commonwealth. Here the last 2 weeks, and I think my advice: hunker down, go to your bunker and write it out. Just write it out. Don't pay any attention to anything else you see, like any ads, anything, because it's all going to be like lunacy. It's already started. Yeah, guaranteed. Love Kentucky politics, though, right?
Oh, that's Kentucky. Well, we cut the cable cord a few years back, and I wasn't thinking in terms of like mental health, but man, it's so good not to have that, boom, boom,
No,
boom.
for real. We changed to ad free, like Hulu and all the other ones during the Matt Bevin election, because I could not see one more Matt Bevin video before I thought I was going to melt down. So like that, I completely get it, and it's been the best money we've ever spent.
Oh yeah, exactly. It's good. Yeah. It's self-care.
It is. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I think now that we're here and ready to get going, I think it's time for a little bit of the news of the week. All right, shut up, Nate. And we'll start off with you, Nema.
Oh, it's me. Okay.
I think so.
Yeah. Okay, let's see.
Oh, well,
New.
actually, but oh, you know what? Let me jump in for a second,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
I'll do
Yeah.
it. Yeah, both of us, because this is we wanted to take a moment to recognize a couple of very sad things that have happened that touched kind of the Kentucky policy world. Number one, Kentucky Senator Johnny Turner finally passed away after this lawnmower accident he'd had last month in his home in Harlan County. He was a Republican. He represented Bell, Floyd, Harlan, Knott, and Letcher counties. That's a lot of counties in our state senate. And it doesn't matter what party you are. When something like that happens, it's just a tragic thing, and we're terribly sad to see, especially for Senator Turner's families and loved ones and constituents who voted for him. So anyway, our hearts go out to all of you out there for that. Did you, Nema, have any experience with Senator Turner?
I didn't really interact with him a whole lot. The Senate really is kind of like the wasteland for me, so I don't really talk to him a whole lot. And I don't enjoy the Senate as much, I don't think, because it is much more like demure, I guess is the best word. I mean, the House is always kind of the Wild West. So no, I didn't. It's really sad though. What a terrible and odd accident. Just one of those things, it sounds like. And
Oh yeah.
I just feel really, really bad for his family, for his friends, and for that community, the folks that care about him. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Thank you. And
Hmm.
then the second bad news, but that a lot of you probably have heard it already, is that Central Kentucky Court of Appeals Judge Pamela Goodwine lost her granddaughter and infant great-granddaughter last week in a car accident. They were, I guess, up in Michigan. I don't know more details about that, but that happened a week ago, Tuesday the 15th. Judge Goodwine is a candidate for Kentucky 5th Supreme Court District, and she understandably canceled some planned campaign events in the near term for that. But our hearts go out to Judge Goodwine and all the loved ones for her granddaughter and great granddaughter. I can't even imagine what that feels like, but it's just nothing but peace and love for them.
Yeah, just a terrible, terrible story. I had just gotten to meet Judge Goodwine at a fundraiser not too long ago, and I think she and I basically were going into our careers here in the same time. Because I remember when I was just a young lass working in television, I remember being in her court, and it was district court at the time. So it's been really neat to watch her progress, and so I've always kind of felt like I knew her, but I'd never really, really talked to her. And so just a really, really interesting woman. And I hate this for her so much. It's just
Oh,
terrible.
yeah.
Hmm. Yeah.
Oh,
I know. So let's try to get to something a little bit lighter and a little bit, because this is just it's just sad. It's just depressing. So let's get to the nuts and bolts here. So Tim Walz was in Louisville. He's there, I think, right now. But you got to pay $1,000 to get into the room. Think this is a good idea or not, Nate?
It's a good idea if you want access to the potential, vice president, coming up. But it's tough. Citizens United, right? Everything sort of all roads lead back to Citizens United. When they opened up the floodgates of almost unlimited cash in campaigns, well, what happens? The Republicans certainly gear up for it. The Democrats are not slouches in terms of raising big numbers nationally, but the point is you can't sort of fight with one hand tied behind your back. So you have to do. It's sort of I don't know. It's. I would feel really terrible. This is, I guess, why another reason why I'm not in politics, because having to ask people for money over and over and do. Oh, we're going to touch down in Louisville. I just but you got to do it to be in the game.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The thing that I think is very interesting about this is that Kentucky in October, especially mid to late, mid October, we're wrapping up October soon, during an election year, a presidential election year, as it is. To me, I don't recall Kentucky really being a stop on any of the, usually these candidates are in the swing states, and Kentucky is most definitely not a swing state.
No,
And
no.
so it makes me wonder, and I say this, and people are always like, "Oh, Nema, you don't know what you're talking about." Maybe I don't. But I really think that Kentucky is one to watch. And I think a lot of people nationally are watching us because of Andy, because of our lieutenant governor, because of this scrappiness that Kentucky just has. And it was really unfortunate. I was watching this KET comment on Kentucky just quickly the other night, and one of the people on the panel said, Kentucky's not unique and it's not special. And I thought,
Tell that to
okay,
Kentucky.
right. And I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I think we're a little different, but that to me has been very, very interesting to watch. I look forward to seeing where this goes as far as beyond, and how Kentucky can maybe, turn our reputation around because, well, we've put Mitch in for a long time.
Oh my goodness. Well,
Yeah,
and
so sorry about that. Yeah.
that's the interesting thing, right? With Mitch sort of exiting stage left, with him is going to go a lot of money that he used to bring to the state. I mean, it's sad. You don't want to sort of give a guy like that any credit where it's not due, but he was good. And I think, maybe to your point about like Kentucky coming up, this may almost be like a test, like, well, how much money can we raise from Kentucky? Are these guys really
Yeah.
willing to play?
I mean, it completely could be. And, I'll tell you, I don't have the cash for $1,000 just to get in the door. I'll tell you that right now. But, it's nice to see Kentucky getting some stops here from national, bigger fish, I guess, in the city.
Yeah.
And so that, it's just always nice. I think anytime that we can promote Kentucky in any way, I think that we should take that opportunity. So yes, yes, yes. The other story is, speaking of candidates, the other story is that some big endorsements. So congratulations to the endorsed candidates. Lexington Herald leader and Progress Kentucky agree. There have been some key endorsements issued. Let's see. We have in the House 45, Adam Moore. He was endorsed over Thomas Jefferson, which I think is hilarious. House 88, of course, is our friend Sherilyn Stevenson over Vanessa Grossel. And Senate 27, Molly Crane over Stephen West. He's the incumbent in that race. But, congratulations to the endorsed candidates. Some I think some people like look at these endorsements. You've got some that just won't vote because of this person. This has been endorsed by this person. But I kind of look at these, don't you, Nate? Like, do you kind of look and see who's endorsing, or does that matter to you, or to sway your opinion? On the candidate.
Great. That's a great question. I think it's been a while since I was swayable because, I mean, like you, I'm very opinionated and I read a shit ton. So by the time these endorsements come around, it's more like a referendum on the source. Like, oh, okay, so you guys aren't, wingnuts. You actually have good values. So for me, it doesn't move the needle for Mr. Moore, Ms. Stevenson, or Representative Stevenson, and Molly Crane, but it does speak well in my heart for the Herald leader, and so
absolutely,
I'll keep paying for them.
Yes, and I think it's because I enjoy that's the traditional indoor, like these are the traditional ones. These just aren't, whatever group that, slaps a name on something and gives somebody a trophy. These are like established, the newspaper. It's pretty, newspapers used to be a pretty big deal,
Right.
And so, but I just didn't know. I'm like you. I'm pretty convinced. I don't understand people who are undecided voters right now. I've been decided since 2016.
Right.
And, and so I'm not, I don't know. I'm kind of suspicious of folks who say they're not, but congratulations to these folks for the nice endorsements and for Progress Kentucky's endorsement, which, is near and dear to our hearts.
Oh, very near and dear, and actually clearly will be the deciding factor. If
Absolutely.
when all
I
is
was
said and
holding
done.
out. I was holding out until I saw Progress Kentucky
Oh yeah.
on.
And Sherilyn Stevenson, that's going to be a real tough one. So I was listening to my old Kentucky pod, which is a really, if anyone who's probably watching us probably listens to that too, because it's really, they're so on the ball. Robert Connie and oh my God, well, this week it was Allison Wine. Oh Lord. Okay, so anyway, I shouldn't talk off the cuff, but one of the points that they were making was that the Republicans had been making hay off of sort of like a picture showing Sherilyn campaigning with Daniel Grossberg, like from a while back, from before any of the bad stuff came out, and clearly the minute that that there were any hints of bad things happening from him, I think Stevenson didn't have anything to do with the guy, understandably, but
Well,
it ain't stopping. According to them, it's not stopping Republican operatives from trying to make hay on that in advertising. So
let's just be honest. It's gross. Blaming a woman for a man's behavior is old hat, and frankly, it's disgusting.
Right on.
And it's wrong on I don't know how many levels, but to even suggest that Representative Stevenson had any prior knowledge or anything, she actually, I mean, when the picture was taken, this was way before all of this stuff happened and surfaced. I'll tell you, I've known Sherilyn Stevenson a lot longer than I've been around politics, and she has integrity. And there is absolutely no way that she would have ever done covered up for anything that no. And it's disgusting to think that once again, in 2024, the year of our Lord, a woman is blamed for the actions of a man. And, we need to stop doing that. And I'm going to tell you one more thing. I've got to get off on my tangent here now that you brought this up, Nate, because I love me some Sherilyn. Here's what really, really grinds my gears over this is the hypocrisy of all of it is mind numbing. The Republicans let go forth who choked his wife with an Ethernet cable for 2 years. This man did not, the ethics thing just sat there and sat there and sat there. And let's make no mistake about this. That was on purpose. Okay. And the other thing is, and I'm going to tell you, the other thing is that not only are the GOP operatives stirring all this stuff about Sherilyn up, but I believe that there are some Democrats who are helping pile on as well behind the scenes. And we got to stop that. We got to stop that, Nate. We got too much. Listen, we are in the minority. We do not need to get in the sewer with each other and fight over a cat turd. And that's exactly what it looks like is going on here.
Yep.
I smell a rat. And, we got to start cleaning up some stuff here. It's not a good look. It's not a good look to blame a woman for a man. And there's the corgi. So I'm going to mute and let you kind of move on real fast.
All right. Thank you. And yes, amen. All the way. So we have one more story, and then we're going to have our special guest come on. So this one comes to us from a Tom Loftus article in the Great Kentucky Lantern. And you've heard us rail against Amendment 2, which, if passed by voters this year, would change the Kentucky Constitution to allow state funding for non-public education. So that means it would let the legislature divert part of your tax dollars to start paying for private schools. And there's a lot of ways you can think about this, so many ways. But a question that I sometimes ask myself if I'm not 100% sure how I feel about any particular issue is, hey, who exactly is putting money into supporting or opposing this? So on the side of opposing Amendment 2, we have teachers' unions, which have been helping fund the effort to persuade voters to vote no. We also have Governor Andy Beshear openly opposing the amendment. no surprise since he's been pro-public educators for a long time. All right, so that's one side. On the side supporting Amendment 2, we have folks from Northern Kentucky associated with developers and the hospitality industry. Okay. And one very, very wealthy out-of-state billionaire named Jeff Yass, Y-A-S-S. And yes, it is like Yas Queen, which I'm sure he's heard once or twice. So according to this October 16th article in the Kentucky Lantern, quote, a multi-million-dollar television advertising campaign supporting Amendment 2 on the November ballot is being single-handedly funded by, Jeff Yass, this billionaire from Pennsylvania who has kicked in $5 million. $5 million. That's not a few. That's a lot of millions. His own money into a political action committee called Protect Freedom, and it's associated with our junior Senator Rand Paul. And if you think $5 million is an eye-popping amount for a single person to donate, because, it really is, well, check this out. Yass has actually donated $14 million to the Project Freedom PAC since the start of last year, 2023. And surprise, surprise, he was a big donor for Daniel Cameron's campaign for governor as well. So who exactly is putting the most money into supporting Amendment 2? It's this billionaire from out of state who can afford to throw extreme amounts of money to support his pet project of threatening public education by convincing Kentuckians to legally siphon off tax dollars to pay for private and charter schools, subsidizing who? The wealthy. So on the one side, we have the teachers' unions and Governor Andy. On the other, we have the wealthy and a billionaire playing chess with public policy just because, he can. And so even if you knew nothing at all about the issue, just comparing both sides of the supporters, which ones would your gut tell you are on the right side of this particular issue? I'm guessing it would not be the side of the billionaire and his wealthy friends. Nema, what do you think? I think I know.
Well, you know how I feel about Amendment 2. Everybody should know. But, I think what is disturbing, and this is what people need to ask themselves, why are all of these really, really rich people who aren't even from here putting this much money into this amendment if it is not something that can make them more money?
Mm-hmm.
And it's money that is going to, there's so many, I'll just be honest, these are lies. I mean, they are, the yes people are just talking out. I mean, it's crazy town, what they're saying. Mm-hmm. And, and it's crazy because some people believe this and it sounds like unicorns and rainbows. All these ads that they've done, sound really, really great. But I just need to be very clear and I need to get this off my chest. This will not help teachers. This will not help small communities. It won't. And what we have to do is we have to defeat this amendment. And then as Kentuckians, we need to have honest conversations about education, how we fund it, and how we start educating all the kids, not just the 60% that constantly, we have generational issues with at certain schools, counties. This is just how, ones who always are left behind. We need to stop. This is our opportunity. This is our opportunity to beat this, take a stand with public ed, and then get it to where it works for more of our kids, because we cannot deny the fact that we have not done a good job with certain kids. And it's pitiful because usually it's our poor and our marginalized kids. Mm-hmm. And so we've got to, but this is our opportunity. I look at this, once we defeat it, I look at this as an opportunity to be bold, to have hard conversations, and I hope that's what happens. But we're going to beat it.
We are. We have to, and we're going to. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you.
100%. Well, yeah.
We've got the right person on this show right now.
That's right. No, I can't wait to hear what he says. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We just set you up great there, Whit. We just like really set you up really well. We started talking about that.
Well, hey, it's I think it's just about time for our very special guest,
Yeah.
and we're going to welcome Mr. Whit Whitaker, who's the president of the Lexington-Fayette branch of the NAACP. Mr. Whitaker, welcome to Colonels of
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah. Oh, you've got the hat going now
I know.
too.
I'm like, yes.
Oh man.
Limit the shine on my head,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Well, we're so glad that you were taking some time out of your schedule to join us tonight, and we're just going to jump into it. So, can you tell us a little bit about the NAACP and what your organization is focused on here in Lexington?
Well, the NAACP was founded in 1909, and it was founded by white people, blacks who wanted to come together, change policies that marginalized people, of course, during that time was Jim Crow and oppressed African Americans. So they would have the right to vote and participate in this democracy to change policies. So the main theme in that the NAACP was focused on was voting, voter rights, women's rights, changing those policies. Our branch here was founded in 1919. There were people who came together and they wanted to start a branch. They sent a letter to the national body, and everybody sent a letter back and says your charter has been granted, and that's been history since then. We had some great leaders, women leaders here who are president and who are instrumental in helping to found this organization. So the things we focus on, like I said, voter education, voter rights. We partner with other organizations like the League of Women Voters, the Divine Nine, members of that group, ABLE, which is advocacy-based lived experience. Actually, ABLE and our group were sponsoring the 5th District Supreme Court forum, and unfortunately, Judge Goodwine, experienced tragic loss. We thought it was the right thing to do was to cancel that. So voter education, voters' rights. We've done tabling at participating in the community forums at the high schools to educate the children, because we have and the young people, we have a youth unit. I volunteer at adult prisons, and actually yesterday I was at the youth juvenile prison, so I talk about NAACP there, talk creating change. We've gone to different counties. We've been in Winchester, and there's issues about racism against students, and we went to talk to the school and gave them a plan to kind of create change, address issues in Paris, Kentucky about the flyers, the NAACP flyers. So we do quite a bit of advocacy. I would say we agitate, advocate, and litigate. And insofar as litigation, a lot of the local units, we don't have the money to actually pay for lawyers. The national unit can do that, but in our effort to help litigate, we do partner with some community lawyers to see if they can meet or talk with the people who are experiencing different issues, and we encourage any community person in the judicial system, psychologists, whatever. If you want to be a part of the NAACP, we would love to have you partner to donate some of your services to so many people in need.
Right on.
I was just going to say, what are some of the issues that you guys are keeping an eye on with the election, coming up? What are some of the issues that you all are keeping an eye out for at the NAACP?
Well, some of the main issues here locally, and we tell people the presidential race is very important. The power is in your local government, so you have to participate in that to create change. Because, like when you talk about unfortunately, I want to send it back to the states. Well, the states are in control of that, and if you don't have people entrusted to look out for the will of to not police their bodies, or other issues like education, like one of the things the national body agrees on. We focus on, that's one of our goals we do too. We focus on education. So when you're talking about taking away, I am all for choice in that we should have right to homeschool our children or make a decision how we want our children to be educated. I am opposed to national money being state money being taken from the public school system to create avenues for money to leave the public school system and the kids to leave the public school system to go there. And if they fail in the private school system, they send back, but that money is away. It's funny to me that we have a lot of great people who've gone through the public school system. Our state constitution, is set up to where money goes to public school system, but we don't. This certain parties, certain groups of people don't feel that the public educational system is worthy of putting money into it, infusing money into it, raising teachers' salaries to get better teachers. You want to ditch the public school education system altogether, and we have to fight to not let that happen. I am a product of public school system. We couldn't afford to go to private school. We were poor, homeless a lot. So I value public education. Because in public education, it's not to say it doesn't happen in private schools, but you have teachers understanding the environment, understanding the lack of supply and money, but they are there because they're trying to change lives of those kids. So that's one of the things we are focused on. The parks issue too. It's a wonderful lot of people. The way they write a lot of these bills or so is to confuse you. Yes, you want money to increase trails and activity in park, but the history of this city and his country is parks in marginalized communities, African American communities, Hispanic communities have long been neglected. So now we're asking for more taxpayer money to pay for things like this when there was a fund that was established for paying for parks. And how are we to know that those marginalized communities are going to, be a part of that process? Housing is another big issue that we're focused on. We want to make sure that our unhoused have equal opportunities to get off the street and to secure housing. The fact that we want to arrest people on the streets because they don't have housing, we don't want to attack the problem of why are the people, why don't they have housing? Well, how are they going up? You got African American, historic African American communities that just want to come in and build high rises and move people out, and that we just can't allow things like that to happen. So
yeah, that's that's a remarkable range of issues that your organization is concerned with, and it's sort of daunting, but all of them are so important.
People don't understand. So we don't we have people come to us about candidate endorsements. So we don't endorse candidates. We said that we don't endorse candidates, but as we have a T-shirt that says we're political as hell, and so we don't endorse candidates, but we endorse and fight for the issues that will uplift, equalize, create equity, and rebuild our community, so that the least of us, those who are lost, those who are forgotten, those who have been marginalized, those who are held back because of the systemic issues in the system with racism and sexism, so that everyone could come on the same level, one accord, see the table. So we don't endorse. We won't tell you when we talk about voter education. We won't tell you who to vote for. We won't tell you what party to vote for. We will say that you use your vote responsibly, because it is a responsibility and a privilege, and to educate yourself and to see what these candidates, what their platforms are, what they're talking about, before you just give away your right to them.
What's your NAACP story? How did you get involved in the first place?
I wish I would have gotten involved in college. So I came from Detroit, and I came here. It was just totally different. Racism exists, but when you come from a city like that, and you come here, and you realize, wow, it's a different thing. Incidents with the former Governor Happy Chandler using the racial N-word epithet several times, and being excused, to facing issues on the University of Kentucky campus where African American students weren't being looked at. So I was president of the Black Student Union. So right off the bat, when I got here, I was about trying to create change and trying to make a difference. A friend of mine, Lisa Brown, who's a playwright and like a sister to me, we started a study group when we were in college, that we would go into the community, and we would provide study sessions and help the kids study and mentor them. But I was always involved in the community, different ways, but while I was running with the NAACP, I didn't join them probably till about 2015, maybe 2013 or so. I was working on my master's, so it was 2013, 2015, somewhere in there. And my thing was, not knowing a whole lot about the NAACP here. Didn't really know how active they were. In Detroit, Atlanta, they're really big and really active. So I just thought it was, I wanted to be a part of this historic organization and try to create change and try to be in the company of people that I can learn from, people who not only could lead me, but who would give me the opportunity to lead, not necessarily in an officer position, but committee, things like that. And definitely when the pandemic hit really, really hard, and we stopped meeting in person, and we just got even more engaged. So that's pretty much how it came to it. People like my friend Tracy Chris, Joanna Mel Green, who have been longtime members, Charles Duke, who is also the Divine Nine. He's Omega, not an Alpha, but I'd excuse him for that. But people like that who introduced me to the unit and what they were doing, and so I've been hooked ever since. And then I didn't become president till 2020. So and before that I was vice president. But yeah, I was involved, and I wish I'd been involved sooner, because I do a lot of my fraternity, Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, and we do a lot of community things. And I'm also the chair of the Episcopal Diocese Lexington's Commission for the Racial Reconciliation of All God's Children, and I also serve on the Mayor's Racial Justice and Equity Commission. So I'm trying to be a part of these different arms to create change, to try to bring in different partners, because just like with slavery, just like with the NAACP, just like with trying to get voting rights, we had to have the help of white people. We had to have the help of other people. So no one group, no one person can do it alone. So that's why it's important for us to educate people on the issues, to go out and talk to them, to listen, to understand, why they feel a certain way. You're not going to change everyone's mind, but at least if we can come to the table and I learned something from Justin Pearson from the Divine Three when I heard him speak. Don't compromise. But if we think in common, we can come and talk. Because a lot of times when you compromise for the other group, the other party, the other person, the people you represent, they fall by the wayside, and they're counting on you to be the voice for them.
No, I mean, that's amazing. And you're exactly right. And I think that's one of the things that when you're saying you all agitate and also educate and all these other things, that it's really important that, other people help do this. It's not just Whit Whitaker, right? You're not just the one person that's doing it. It's not just Nate. It's not just me. It takes all of us. And I love the thing about do not compromise, but be able to come to the table. Let's talk about just kind of you've got politicians and a lot of rhetoric that's going on now. We've got the enemy from within, all these really kind of inflammatory, kind of, dog whistle type messages. Tell me what you think about all that and how you feel as though we can heal from this, hopefully, this nightmare, this great American nightmare that we've been on for a while. And how can we heal from that and really help everybody move forward and rising tides lift all boats. So how do we do that when we've got some people in this country who really, really use this language and really believe it?
Yeah. My feeling about a lot of that is a lot of people who excuse certain behavior, racist, sexist behavior, whatever, you are inviting that in for someone to judge you and say that is a part of your character. Talk about, first of all, who is the enemy? At any given time, someone could be the friend, the foe, or the enemy. So which enemy are you speaking of? Because, Black people have been the enemy for years in slavery, LGBTQIA+. So what is the enemy? Now you're focusing on immigrants when this country was built on people from other countries coming here. If you're going to create some policy to get rid of immigration, you may as well get rid of the statute of liberty, which says bring us your tired and your poor to this country. That's how people got here. The enemy within, I would sit down with people and feel out, why do you listen to this rhetoric? Why do you feel this way? As I was telling friends of mine, I'm able to end racism, but I want to know why someone is racist. You may say, well, I don't like immigrants, I don't like Mexicans because, when my grandfather worked at the factory, he lost his job and they gave it to Mexicans. Okay, now I have an understanding of why you might feel that way. It doesn't make it right. But then the big question, who are you really mad at? Because I'm sure a Mexican person, a Hispanic person wasn't the boss. I'm sure it wasn't an African American. It was a white guy that fired him. So who are you really angry at? Who is the enemy? So sitting down at the table, having these conversations, talking about, what is important? Is character not important? Because we can all compromise ourselves and say, well, I don't have a job, so I want, I'm going to focus on this, and if I don't get a job, then the economy is bad, and so this president is not working for me. It is bigger than self. It is, you have to look at the policies that bring everyone into the fold. You have to look at policies that create a better city, state, country. So when we talked about the enemy within, you have to ask yourself, who are you thinking is the enemy? Is it someone you consider the enemy? Is it someone you are saying that certain person is saying is the enemy and you're going along with that? And then what happens when you become the enemy, when it's refocused on you, when things that you feel don't directly affect you now affect you? And then how are you going to feel? So we have to get people to understand that character does play a part in this. You have to have morals. You have to be able to communicate. You can't have one side saying, well, when one president was in, he's too old, and now that president is out of the race, and then it's okay. We are humans in our we have this tendency to pick and choose and marginalize, and we will take this because we think this is going to help us. Well, we are all the enemy, and we are all going to suffer if we don't step up, change how we view ourselves, change how other countries view us, and determine what is really important. You want to talk about what this country was built on, aside from the bad stuff like killing Native Americans and slavery or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But people want to talk about a high moral country and the leader in the world. Kentucky, for instance, there are things that we can do. We hear all the time how we want to be the guiding light, the shining example. Well, then our politicians have to step up and stop being sheep and to focus on the truth and what is important. My mom told me, you don't have to, it has to like you, but just because they don't like you, you're not going to work with them. So we don't have to like each other. You can say people are not as smart or whatever, but all I care about is when it comes down to brass tacks, you have to say, well, I wouldn't want my child being killed by my unarmed child being killed, my unarmed white child being killed by a police officer. I wouldn't want someone telling me that I could marry the person I love. I wouldn't want someone telling me that, oh, we're gonna just gentrify your community, move you out, and you're gonna be on the streets. So we have to walk in other people's shoes, and we all have to stand up and deliver and go out and research these policies, research our politicians, and we cannot allow apathy to sit in to say that my vote don't count. Because just because my candidate does not win does not mean that my vote was not valuable. That means I keep exercising, I keep fighting to change. We can't get to the point where my one vote does not matter, because everyone's vote matters.
Well, and I would say, if you don't know where to go to do research, the next best thing you can do is listen to a leader like you and ask your opinion. So I would say that's one place I would steer people. Well, we've got a couple minutes. You have a very interesting sort of story on the side too. You're a performing artist, right? And
yes.
If you're comfortable, would you mind just telling us like what you do, the gigs you've done recently, and maybe also like how that plays into your work with NAACP too, performance.
So I started playing violin when I was 8, and the reason I got into music was I was an introvert and I had to learn to do this public speaking thing. But a teacher said this time when Sadat, Menachem Begum, all the stuff in Egypt, the wars that were happening, and said music is the universal language. And the teacher said, wouldn't it be nice if music would end wars? And so this idealistic young Black kid in the inner city was like, I'm in wars, so I started playing violin, and I didn't start singing until my sophomore year in high school. But, I've been trained as an opera singer. I've performed on multiple continents and been in France. Most recently, I just got back singing 2 weeks in Switzerland, singing songs that were found and they were written by our enslaved ancestors and talking about slave revolts. Most people only know Nat Turner or Gabriel Prosser or the successful one, which was the Haitian Revolt. But I try to tell people just slavery on as long as it did. Our enslaved ancestors fought all the time. There were always uprisings. They weren't all successful. So just letting people know, because some of the songs I was singing were, very direct, and even before, the Emancipation Proclamation and times like that. But I was sung in South Africa in 2019. I've been all over Spain. So yeah, one where I like to use my voice. I think artists have a responsibility also to the community and to use their craft to uplift and change. And so whenever I can, I try to do that. I'm going to be singing at a veterans event. I'm a part of the National Association of Black Veterans. I'm the treasurer for that group, and I've been asked to sing something there. And then we have our Week of Valor coming up in November, and so the National Association of Black Veterans are going to have events celebrating veterans. We talk about the veterans' health care and mental health, which all plays into what we do in the community, and what the NAACP talks about also, importance of mental, health. I serve on the 988 committee that established the mental health hotline. And all that is kind of intertwined, and we have few people who are part of the NAACP who are veterans and part of the NAP vets, and just like we have people who are part of Divine Nine that are members. So yeah, it's we try to get people to understand it takes a village, it takes a community, it takes work to create change. So.
My goodness.
I know. I'm like, wow. I'm like, wow. I need to be out doing more things. It's like I was exhausted even listening to all this.
What
of course, I'm like,
you do quite a bit. So I've attended some meetings where you have a lot of energy, so you keep that going. So.
Well, I appreciate that, but I'm getting old, and I'm ornery too. So but when you were talking about the violin, of course, I was like, oh, I'm like, we talking the fiddle? Or are we talking the violin? So I'm guessing.
I need to learn the fiddle, but I was taught the classical violin. And I played a band. I played percussion and lead singer in a band also. I performed with the the Lexington Ballet, Kentucky Opera, just several groups, antagonists.
Oh my goodness.
Very cool.
I volunteer I volunteer in the juvenile system in the prison, I volunteer in the adult prison. So, it's trying to touch people's lives, and
clearly we're going to have to get you back just so you can sort of tell people about all these different things you're doing, because each one of them is like a little book, unto itself. Whit Whitaker, thank you. Oh, I'm sorry.
One last thing. Our website is flexnaacp.net, and if you want to know some of the issues we focus on, I put on our website, because I do our webmaster stuff too. I put on the website issues that the NAACP, the nonpartisan issues that are important nationally that you want to focus on. So
awesome. Well, it is in our comments and it's there on the screen. And Whit Whitaker, thank you so much for joining us on Kernels of Truth. It's such an honor.
Yes, thanks, Whit. We'll see you on the road somewhere. I'm sure I'll see you around.
Oh, yeah.
But yes, thank you very much for everything that you guys do. We really appreciate it.
Thank you both for what you all do too, and educating the public.
Thank you. So that was Whit Whitaker, president of Lexington-Fayette branch of the NAACP. And I just have a little bit left to go on the show. Don't go yet, because we want to tell you about a call to action. So with just 13 days to go, we need you. We're fighting against Amendment 2, as you've heard, and 4 more folks in Frankfort who will stand against Kentucky's outrageous abortion restrictions and fight for reproductive justice in the General Assembly. So folks specifically like Adam Moore. We're fighting to keep Charlene Stevenson, as you've heard earlier. So please make time to join our campaign and win these critical down ballot races to make Kentucky a bit better, a bit kinder, and I think the folks might be here. And a little less in the pocket of right-wing billionaires and their anti-public education agenda. So what are we doing? We are canvassing and getting folks informed around the Lexington area and ready to vote every weekend between now and November 5th. And we are going to share it's one of these URLs that's like you can't. Oh, that's the wrong thing. Let's try it again, Nate. Do live video. You never know. There we go. Oh dear Lord.
All right, you got this.
There we go. So
you got it.
So it's a forms.gle URL, but we would love you to join us. And the weather is still really great, so it's not such a hardship to be out there and knocking doors and handing out literature and helping do your part for democracy. So that's it for me. Nema, want to take it away?
Sorry, y'all. It's a 3-ring circus in my house tonight. But I will. And sorry about the corgi and the banging. We have some folks over putting a water heater in. So woohoo! Okay, here we go. Progress Kentucky is a nonprofit organization registered with the Kentucky Secretary of State and organized as a 501c4. We're affiliated with the Indivisible Project, the Commonwealth Alliance for Voter Engagement, and are also proud members of the Forward Kentucky Network. Progress Kentucky's goal is to educate, organize, increase voter turnout, and advance progressive agendas through civic engagement. Next week's show, we're very excited to be joined by that's already, sorry. I guess, do we know what next week's show is? I don't think we do.
No. Right now it's
okay.
catch as catch can.
Well, and it's, absolutely. Then production was by Parker. Is that right? I don't know. Whoever
it was
did,
actually
thank
me,
you.
but we'll give Parker credit.
Nate.
Yeah.
And Nate Orshan wrote and performed our theme song. You can find more information about his music at natosongs.com. If you miss our weekly live stream on Facebook or YouTube, audio podcasts and our show notes are available on Apple, Google, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcast. If you do listen to the podcast, please leave us a 5-star review wherever you are listening right now. And our logo and some graphic content are provided by Couchfire Media. Nate, I think that's it. I think we've survived. The corgi only acted out a couple of times. So now I'm going to go in here and unload a ton of money on a water heater.
Well, best of luck. I look forward to hearing better news from you for tomorrow.
Absolutely. So thank you, guys. I hope everybody's had a good show. And I guess you're going to take us out, Nate?
I will. See you down the dusty trail.
Yeah, see you, Nate.